Chapter 11. Master Lee's eyes were incredulous as I peered down into the urn. "You're alive?" "Sir, I said, does any deity owe us a favor? If not, we'll have to go into bankruptcy buying incense for the pantheon." I got him out without smashing the urn, and he was able to hobble around quite well after I massaged his legs. He looked at the body of the snake and shook his head wonderingly when I told him what had happened, and then he pointed out a nasty aspect I hadn't got around to considering. "There's no way this wound in the back can be made to look like an accident," he said. "We're faced with unpleasant complications, no matter what. But the first step is a necessity. We have to make the corpse disappear." I opened my mouth 1 or 2 times to make suggestions, and then closed it again. The Grand Warden was going to pull apart the castle stone by stone, if need be, dig up every inch of dirt, drain the moat, and send divers down the wells. And when Master Lee said we had to make the snake disappear, he meant disappear. "Step 1 is to get him out of this revolting love nest, and that, at least, is easy," the old man said decisively. I made 2 trips, back down the stairs and then down the outer wall to the garden, one carrying Master Lee, and the other carrying the snake. The corpse fit into a large wheelbarrow, an invention I have explained to barbarians in a previous memoir, and some burlap from manure sacks covered it. Then Master Lee sprawled comfortably on top, and I wheeled him out and past the guards while he hiccuped and waved his wine flask and sang bawdy songs, and the captain of the guards did no more than bow. After a battle like the one the old shaman had put on to save the Grand Warden's wife, he was supposed to get stinking drunk, and nobody dreamed of interfering. I wheeled him to the puppeteer's wagon and left the wheelbarrow outside with the covered corpse still in it, certain that nobody was going to get close to the old man's conveyance. Nothing is more dangerous than a drunken shaman. Yen Shi greeted us inside, which had very little space, despite the size of the wagon, because every inch was filled with puppeteering gear. "We have a problem," said Master Lee. Yen Shi raised an eyebrow. "There's a corpse in that wheelbarrow," said Master Lee. Yen Shi raised the other eyebrow. "The corpse is that of the snake-like creature who damn near killed Ox, and we have to assume the Grand Warden will search every drop of water and mote of dust until he finds the son of a serpent," said Master Lee. Yen Shi nodded. "I have precisely 2 ideas at the moment," Master Lee said. "The first is to disguise the corpse as one of your larger mannequins." Yen Shi pointed out at the moon and made revolving motions, indicating time passing, and then held his nose, indicating a bad smell. "The second is to find some way to explain how a tiger managed to get past the moat and walls and eat the bastard," said Master Lee. Yen Shi shrugged his shoulders and spread his hands apart. "How?" "We shall think," Master Lee said, and his wrinkles contracted, while Yen Shi gazed up at the canvas roof and hummed. Then he stopped humming. "Tomorrow," the puppeteer said slowly, "the Grand Warden of Goose Gate has scheduled a great feast in honor of his wife's recovery." "At which a tiger will eat the snake?" said Master Lee. "At which the Grand Warden of Goose Gate will eat the snake," said Yen Shi. I thought that was weak humor, but Master Lee didn't. In fact, he was regarding the puppeteer with vast admiration. "My friend, you're a genius!" he cried. "But he isn't serious." "He isn't being serious," I said. Then I looked at Yen Shi, and back to Master Lee, and back to Yen Shi. "Are you?" I asked, weakly. I don't want to describe what happened next, but I have no choice if I am to provide honest accounts of the cases of Master Lee. So, I will include a detail that will make me look even more foolish than usual. Throughout the next horrible hours, my mind insisted upon clinging to a totally irrelevant image, an image I had acquired in the very first scene with which I began this narrative, and I haven't the slightest idea why it popped back up to lodge like a barnacle on my brain. But there it was, I kept seeing a despicable barbarian, with a face of stone and eyes like icicles, squatting in squalor and scratching for lice in a place called the Sabine Hills, dipping his brush in viper venom to send his idiotic criticism all the way to China. "All right, Flaccus," I said silently as I wheeled a huge load of fresh vegetables to the castle kitchens. "What would you have me do? Pretend there isn't a corpse beneath the turnips, because corpses are excessively melodramatic? Pah, friend Flaccus! Pah, pah, pah!" A great castle always has a small, separate kitchen for the preparation of ceremonial dishes to be offered to ghosts or gods, and it was to be expected that a shaman would wish to offer to the gods who had aided him and invite his esteemed host to share the feast. Master Li had no difficulty commandeering the place, and in a few minutes he and Yen Qi had the corpse stretched out on the kitchen table and were cutting the clothes away. To tell the truth, I still didn't truly believe this was happening. "Ox, would you see if they have any pig's feet jelly?" the puppeteer asked. He turned to Master Li. "It seems to me that the thighs might best be marinated in a broth of pig's feet, mixed with honey and the lees of wine, and then baked inside a crust formed of the marinade thickened with peanut paste." "A connoisseur," said Master Li. "Gugg," I said. "Ox, while you're at it, see if they have any pickled jellyfish skins," Master Li called after me as I lurched into the larder. "I've discovered they go marvelously with bears' paws," he continued to Yen Qi. "Bears' paws taste to me like 60% glue, so jellyfish skins might be a good accompaniment to glutinous parts, like the soles of this bastard's feet, and perhaps the spermatic cords." I said. One of the shelves yielded the pig's feet, and in a cabinet I found a jar of jellyfish skins. When I started back toward the table, Master Li was preparing to remove the top of the corpse's head with a saw, and Yen Qi was measuring fibula and tibia with 4 axe strokes. "You see, Flaccus, there is more to this world than the uncivilized can possibly imagine," I silently said. "For example—" "What? Yen Qi, shall we do the brains in a traditional turnip sauce, or would you prefer oyster broth?" Master Li shouted over the sound of the puppeteer's axe. "You know, I rather favor poaching brains in coconut milk, if Ox can find any," Yen Qi said thoughtfully. "Brilliant," Master Li said admiringly. "Ox, see if they have any coconuts. And do you know why our erudite friend made the suggestion? Once upon a time, so the story goes, the great king of Nam Viet was stabbed by assassins, and he realized he was dying. So he pulled off his head and stuck it on a tree as his final gift to the people. The head turned into the coconut, and because the king was drunk at the time, the fluid inside it is the most easily fermentable stuff on earth." "Rip, rip, I said. "I shall again seek your invaluable advice before possibly ruining something," said Master Li. "Shall we keep the tongue whole, possibly baked inside a crust of walnut paste, or should we slice and sauté it with butter and garlic?" "I'm a butter and garlic man," the puppeteer said. "Why don't we save the walnut paste for broiling the bastard's balls?" "Splendid," said Master Li. I said. "Whack, rip, whack, rip. Ox, would you extract the marrow from these?" I said. "Don't bother, I'll do it. How about a casserole of toes and ears?" "Maybe with breast meat," added Master Li said. "Stewed slowly with bean curd, fagara, red peppers, and a lot of mushrooms added at the end." "Sounds marvelous," said Yen Qi. "We have time to make a few sausages, don't we?" "Oh, certainly. Here, let's see what his intestines look like," I said. "Ox, look for some of that mustard from the south that goes so well with sausages," Yen Qi called out. "I once knew a fellow named Meng Quan who claimed he bought mustard of Tan and took it home and forgot about it," he said to Master Li. The stuff began to grow, and it sprouted a torso, a head, a tail, and 4 legs, and Meng Quan swears it bit him and galloped out the door, and he never saw it again. "What was he drinking?" "Paint remover, I assume. Speaking of which, is there some way we can disguise the features, yet leave it intact, and serve the Grand Warden crisp, fried face of boyfriend?" I said. I staggered back with mustard and a coconut. "You see, Flaccus," I silently said, "there are times when gentlemen must engage in activities which they normally— Will you look at this fellow's kidneys and pancreas? Gorgeous! And the liver? Eggplant, Ox. We must have eggplant, tomatoes, onions, green peppers, and at least 2 kinds of squash." I dumped bones into cauldrons and boiled them for the broth, and then I pulverized them into a coarse gray powder that I mixed with meal and molasses to make tiny balls, and leaned from the far window and tossed the balls into the moat and watched fish snap at them. The snake's clothing went up in flames. His unburnable possessions were melted beyond recognition before joining the bone balls, and drifted down through the water to the accompaniment of piscine burps and belches. Not a trace of the creature remained, except for the succession of splendid dishes that were carried to the Grand Warden's table the following evening at the banquet. I lacked the social status to receive an invitation, of course, and so did Yen Shi. But Master Li and Yulan were guests of honor, and it was a great comfort for me to know that Yulan never ate meat. Master Li could eat anything, including 12 treasure, 5 taste, herb-honeyed unicorn, which was served to the Grand Warden as the dish of distinction. Yen Shi and Master Li had boiled the snake's buttocks in an infusion of hibiscus petals, and I had to admit it gave them a lovely shade of blushing pink. As I said, I didn't attend, but I did hear satisfied comments from departing guests, including the assessment of 2 very exalted prelates. "A bit rich for my taste, but quite well done," said the high priest of Yen Men, and his Confucian counterpart put the seal on it. "Singularly succulent comestibles." "I said.